BlackBerry is in the middle of its new life as an Android phone maker, and its new device, the $299 DTEK50, is a curious little machine. It's pretty cheap, it's secure, it's all touch, and BlackBerry lets someone else do most of the design work. In many ways, the end result is the least BlackBerry I've ever seen, but that doesn't mean the DTEK50 is a bad phone. Now, you probably already know the DTEK50 is based on a TCL reference design, which explains why it looks so much like an Alcatel Idol 4. When I first met this phone, I was a little down on it because of its formulaic origins, but that was really just me being sort of a snob. The DTEK50 is respectably built and even kind of handsome in an understated way. The 5.2-inch 1080p screen up front is actually pretty great too, with accurately saturated colors and really nice viewing angles. Ditto too for the two speakers perched at the top and bottom of the device. They're a little on the tinny side, but they're plenty loud, and it's always kind of a pleasure to get even decent stereo audio out of a smartphone. I even started to like the textured rubber back, if only because I'm getting a little weary of the glass and metal bodies companies keep churning out. Meanwhile, performance is what you'd expect out of a $300 phone, that is to say, far from flagship level, but still plenty snappy. The DTEK50 runs with an octa-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 617 chipset and 3GB of RAM. I noticed maybe a few more hiccups and instances of lag than I expected, but never really enough to get frustrating. Die-hard BlackBerry fans might have some lingering hard feelings about the company's hardware partner here, but really the DTEK50's physical design and construction don't leave much room for complaining. The biggest annoyance so far is the so-called convenience key. It's precariously placed in the same spot as most power buttons on phones, and it took the better part of a week to completely retrain my muscle memory. I also wish we could have gotten a little more granular with that convenience key. By default, you can set it to launch apps and connect it to shortcuts like calling a person or adding a calendar entry, but there's no way to customize these actions further in software, so you can't, for example, use it to snap a photo or take a screenshot. Speaking of software, BlackBerry's onto something. And really, the company couldn't afford not to be. Now that it's willing to outsource design and production, BlackBerry's soul is software. DTEK50 runs a secured version of Android 6.0.1 Marshmallow. The underlying Linux kernel has been hardened, full disk encryption is on from the get-go, but you'd still be hard-pressed to tell the difference. The only real indication you're working with something this locked down is the company's DTEK app, which lets you manage app permissions and get a sense of how secure your phone is at any given moment. Beyond that, all the tricks we saw on the Priv are here too. You can swipe up from the bottom of the screen for shortcuts, and a productivity tab on the right side of the screen offers quick access to your calendar entries, tasks, and favorite contacts. And then there's the keyboard, which is still one of the finest available on Android phones. It's perfectly sized, it's precise, and swiping up on word suggestions to complete messages is actually pretty fun. There are, however, some issues you should know about. The camera, for instance, is really nothing to write home about. Like every other smartphone camera before it, it does much better in bright conditions. There's a fair amount of detail to be found here, and a manual mode and live filters can help you get the colors and impact that you want. Even so, the Moto G Plus takes better stills for the same amount of money. More importantly, the 2610 mAh battery continues to be a little finicky. I could usually count on the DTEK50 to last me through a full workday and then some before needing a charge, but once in a while it'd start running really hot, even while just sitting on my desk. It also only lasted 7 hours and 40 minutes in our battery rundown test. That's nearly 3 hours behind the newest Moto G devices. At the end of it all, it's kind of hard to judge the DTEK50. As a business move, it's savvy, it's great. As a phone, it's far from perfect. Still, BlackBerry has been pretty candid about the fact that this is a fleet device, a phone it hopes will find purchase with companies trying to trick out their mobile workforces. For them, sure, the DTEK50 is a solid, not very expensive option with the security chops to put those people at ease. For the rest of us though, the DTEK50 is a much tougher sell. Unless you're a BlackBerry loyalist or you take your security very, very seriously, you could probably do better elsewhere for the same amount of money.